So I watched two more films today that I rented from Videodrome. They're both foreign language films, so I'm going all over the globe today. This first one was 1982's Volver empezar, which means starting again in Spanish, but I believe it was released in America under the name Beguine. And all of the music in the film is either by Cole Porter, mostly Begin the Beguine, and Pachelbel, mostly Pachelbel's canon in D. And it's a beautiful film about a man returning to his home country after 40 years. Um, the lead character is named Antonio, and he's played by an actor named Antonio. He left Spain in 1937 during the Spanish Civil War, and the character has been teaching literature in Berkeley and writing novels ever since. He recently went to Stockholm, having won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and decided to stop off in his hometown of Guion, hoping I'm saying that right, to visit, and while there runs into the love of his life and has to sort of put his life, think through all the reasons he left Spain, the memories he has with this woman that he loved, and the reality of where he currently is in his life situation and in his health. And it's sort of, it reminded me a bit of Before Sunset, not Before Sunrise, Before Sunset being the one where Jesse and Celine re-meet each other in Paris. And it kind of reminded me of that, in that most of the film is these two characters, Antonio and Elena, talking to each other and reminiscing about how they met, how they fell in love, how they parted, and this inside joke that they have about one of them being, about him being Fred Astaire and her being Ginger Rogers, and dancing to the Begin the Beguine. And it's just a beautiful film. There are many other characters, and they're quite fun as well. But the rapport between these two and the love that you can see between them just when one's listening to the other is just stunning. This won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 1983. I rented it from Videodrome, so it is available places. Check your local art house video store. It's written, directed, and produced by José Luis Garci. What else to say about it? Oh, the very end of the film, slight spoilers, he ends up back in Berkeley, and it's amazing how much Berkeley hasn't changed. So they show San Francisco and they show Berkeley, and San Francisco looks a little different in the 30 some odd years since this was filmed. But the Berkeley campus looks so similar. It's kind of fun to watch the character walk around campus. So this is a beautiful film. Won the Academy Award. Highly recommend watching it if you're looking for a very talky but very passionate romance. The next film I watched was Lone Scherfig's Italian for Beginners. This was sort of her big breakthrough film prior to her other big breakthrough film, An Education. It's part of the Dogma 95 of films. But the Dogma 95 was like a filmmaking movement founded by Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, where basically they had really strict filmmaking things. You had to shoot on location. You couldn't have props, no light, just natural lighting. Had to be a handheld camera. There were several other sort of you couldn't do anything that you couldn't actually do, so you can't murder anybody because that would be a snuff film if you were actually murdering somebody. No sex because that would be porn. Dogma 95 was sort of inspired by Italian neorealism and French New Wave, in that they were breaking rules but also trying to make everything very like natural feeling and not overly produced, and is similar to the American mumblecore films of the mid 2000s. They were inspired by Dogma 95, and actually there were a few American filmmakers who made Dogma 95 films, including Harmony Korine. If you see the poster for this film, you would not know that this film was shot on a video camera, and that it's very not glossy, because the poster and DVD poster is so glossy and gives you a very wrong idea of what this film is like. It's very low key. Apparently, it was slightly inspired by a novel by Maeve Binchy, and was not said for like 10 years, and then she got paid. So pay your sources. The film follows a man who has just been widowed, and he is a pastor who's replacing a pastor who may have injured an organist, and that's why he's not at his church anymore. He's sort of the center of a group of many people, including a woman who works at a bakery, an Italian immigrant, a waiter, a night watchman guy. No, not watchman. Night bellhop. No, he's not a bellhop either. What's the word I'm looking for? The guy who checks you in at a hotel. I can't think of his name. A hairdresser, a nurse, and several other people. All of whom, some of whom know each other through this Italian class that they take, some of whom know each other through other things in their lives, but they're all sort of connected, and they're all eventually going to learn Italian and eventually go to Italy, and that part's very delightful. But it's because it's Dogma 95, it was a little jarring at first because it's very low production budge, but eventually, which is sort of the point of Dogma 95, you really just get sucked into the performances and the plot and the trappings of like lush filmmaking. You don't even care anymore because you're so involved in the characters and their struggles and passions and relationships, and that's really how it felt. I really like. It's a kind of romantic comedy. Most of her films are sort of romantic comedies, but most of her films have sort of dark moments in the romantic comedy, and that's why I quite like her as a filmmaker. And you see that in this film. You see a lot of dark moments, and then a lot of just really wonderful pieces of romance. And I just kept wanting several of the characters. I just like get together already, and it was really frustrating. But thankfully, this being a romantic comedy, everyone ends up getting through their differences and getting together. I really liked it a lot. There were moments of really true heartbreak, and then moments of just true joy, and there's a lot of discussion on what is happiness and what is faith and what is the point of life, and the grand scale of things and small scale of things, and all of that all in one big movie. I believe this is one of the most profitable Scandinavian films of all time. So it was made for $600,000, and it made $16.3 million around the world. That's a lot of money. Did quite well for this little film, and it's another one I rented from Videodrome, so you can definitely find it. And again, the poster makes it look way different than it actually is, and it's just a lovely romantic comedy. When it ended, I just had a big smile on my face. So I've got about 5 more of Lone Scherfig's films to track down. I think I've seen half her filmography now. She's definitely one of my favorite directors. If you haven't seen Their Finest, came out last year, please track that one down. It's lovely. So this was Begin the Beguine from 1982, an Italian for beginners from the year 2000, both rented from Videodrome. I enjoyed both of them. Beautiful low-key romances for the win.